Hello friends, I am Dr. Nikki Gajjar from Sola Civil Hospital. Today our topic is chronic suppurative otitis media. Today we will be studying inflammation of the mucosa of the middle ear. Otitis media is the condition of the middle ear. So the topics we will be discussing today are its definition, its various types, etiology that is the causative agents, the factors, the bacterial and viral causes, the pathological features, the clinical features which includes its symptoms and signs, and finally its management. The management includes both the investigations and the final treatment. So let us first revise the anatomy of the middle ear or the middle ear cleft. This is the eustachian tube which forms the anteroinferior part of the middle ear or the middle ear cleft. This hole is the middle ear connected with the mastoid air cell system through the adytus ad antrum. Now the relevant anatomy of the middle ear to this pathological condition of chronic suppurative otitis media is this hole of the middle ear with its mastoid air cell system and the eustachian tube. The middle ear is divided into epitympanum which is its upper part. The part which is medial to the tympanic membrane is the mesotympanum, and the part lower to the mesotympanum is the hypotympanum. Lateral to the middle ear lies the tympanic membrane and the external auditory canal, and medial to the middle ear lies whole of the inner ear. This is the inner ear. Let us just concentrate today on this condition of the middle ear and its structures present within the middle ear, that is the ossicles and the ligaments and the muscles. Let us revise the anatomy of the tympanic membrane. This hole is normal tympanic membrane with posterior malleolar fold and anterior malleolar fold dividing pars flaccida from the pars tensa. This is the handle of malleus with its lateral process or the short process of the malleus. This is the umbo in the anteroinferior quadrant, and the whole peripheral area of the tympanic membrane is lined by a fibrous annulus which is also known as tympanic annulus, and it lies within the bony sulcus. Any pathology of middle ear might also affect this tympanic membrane. So the anatomy of the tympanic membrane should always be kept in mind. Definition. Definition is it is a permanent abnormality in the pars tensa or pars flaccida of the tympanic membrane occurring due to three main conditions, that is recurrent acute otitis media with effusion, and negative middle ear pressure. Now, if acute otitis media or otitis media with effusion, if not treated in a timely manner with proper antibiotics and treatment, there will be recurrence of this condition, ultimately leading to its chronicity. This chronic condition will lead to CSOM. Now, the CSOM is characterized by two main things. It is characterized by ear discharge and it is characterized by permanent perforation. So, what is a permanent perforation? It is the perforation which is lined by squamous epithelium. That is, it has lost its regenerating capacity. The perforation which is lined by squamous epithelium cannot regenerate by itself. If there is bare area here, there will be presence of fibrocytes and vascular tissue which will lead to its regeneration. But as it is lined by squamous epithelium, it will not be able to regenerate by itself. Again, let us revise the definition of the chronic suppurative otitis media. It is long-standing infection of a part or whole of the middle ear cleft characterized by continuous or intermittent discharge through a persistent tympanic membrane. Now, let us first understand what does chronicity mean. Acute condition is a condition which lasts for a period of less than 6 weeks. Chronic condition is always characterized by all the signs and symptoms and the findings which lasts for more than 6 weeks. So any condition which is less than 6 weeks is not considered to be a chronic condition. The types of chronic suppurative otitis media. There are two main types, tubotympanic type and atticoantral type. These both names are given according to the area of the middle ear and the tympanic membrane involved during the pathology. In tubotympanic type, The area involved is the part of the middle ear cleft anteriorly, that is the eustachian tube and the anterior part of the mesotympanum. It is characterized by a central perforation, and today, as we give proper treatment in the form of antibiotics, the chances of complications has been reduced. It is also called a safe or benign type of disease. The other type is atticoantral. As the name suggests, atticoantral type of the suppurative otitis media involves the attic part and the antrum part of the middle ear cleft. It is also called unsafe or dangerous type of the otitis media. It is associated with either an attic perforation or the marginal perforation, as opposed to tubotympanic disease in which there is central perforation. Often, there may be a bone eroding process associated with the atticoantral disease like granulations, osteitis, cholesteatoma, and if timely treatment is not given, the complications might develop. Again, the newer classification of chronic otitis media is based on the type of the mucosa involved in the disease. That is, it can be a mucosal disease or it can be a squamosal disease. Mucosal disease is similar to a tubotympanic disease, and squamosal disease is atticoantral type of the disease. Now, the disease can be in its active form or it can be in its inactive form. The active form is present with suppuration. There will be discharge associated with the perforation. Whereas in inactive form, there will be a permanent perforation, but there might not be any discharge present. Remember that in inactive stage, there will be perforation, there will be no discharge, so patient will not have complaint of discharge. Patient might complain of decreased hearing, but no discharge. And the last one in mucosal disease is healed type of adhesive otitis media. Here, there will be healing of a previous perforation. Thus, there will be only two layers in the tympanic membrane. The middle fibrous layer, which is normally present, will be absent in this condition. Similarly, the types of this squamosal disease are inactive type and active type. Inactive type, there will be cholesteatoma with discharge. Cholesteatoma might not be present with discharge, but in most of the cases, there is superadded bacterial infection. So there will be discharge associated with the cholesteatoma. Whereas in inactive form of squamosal disease, there might be no perforation, but there will be retraction of the tympanic membrane. Now the retraction can be in the pars flaccida or pars tensa, and thus the disease is also called atelectasis in the ear. Etiology or the causative agents causing the tubotympanic type of the disease. Atopy, young age, genetic predisposition, all these conditions might lead to development of chronic otitis media. Remember, chronic otitis media is not a disease which is caused by a single agent. It is a multifactorial disease. So, uh, allergic conditions, young age, living in attending daycare, uh, atopic diseases, seasonal changes, all this predisposes to the development of chronic otitis media. It is very common in childhood because uh, it can develop as sequelae of acute otitis media, usually following exanthematous fever and leaving large perforation. Also, the infection in the tonsil, adenoids, and infected sinuses may ascend through the eustachian tube into the middle ear, affecting the middle ear. Sometimes, as there is narrow and shorter eustachian tube in the children, there might be spread of the mucosal infection from the nasopharynx into the middle ear. Now, the bacteria and the virus is causing the chronic suppurative otitis media. Pseudomonas aeruginosa is the most common bacteria causing this disease. This should be remembered as this question is commonly asked in pre-PG examination. The gram-positive organism causing this disease is Staphylococcus aureus. Pathology of the disease. Now, remember that the tubotympanic type of the disease remains localized to the mucosa of the disease. That is, the inner lining of the middle ear, which is mostly a respiratory type of the mucosa. That is, pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. Most of the middle ear cleft is lined by this kind of the mucosa. Now the pathology depends on the virulence of the organism, the host resistance, and the antibiotic treatment. Remember, for any kind of the disease, the pathological development depends upon these three main factors. That is the virulence of the organism, the resistance of the host, and the timely treatment. The clinical features of the disease are, let us first go about the symptoms. The symptoms include ear discharge, hearing impairment or hearing loss, decrease in hearing, pain in the ear, tinnitus or ringing sensation in the ear, headache, vertigo, nausea, and vomiting. Most of the times, the patient will present with the complaint of ear discharge and decreased hearing. It might be associated with the pain in ear. Now, the signs. On examination of the ear by an otoscope, we might be able to see a perforation in the pars tensa if it is present. During the examination, you have to observe the size, the shape, the quadrants which it involves, the margins of the perforation, whether there is any congestion present or not, the ossicles and its status, the status of the mucosa, and if any active ear discharge is present, you might be able to see a lighthouse sign. Now, what is lighthouse sign? Whenever there is an active discharge present through the perforation, there will be blinking of the light seen with every pulsation of the discharge. So it appears like the lighthouse sign, that is, the light comes and goes, comes and goes. This is lighthouse sign. Microscopic features include inflammatory exudative fluid with lymphocytes, macrophages, and pus cells. Whenever we send pus CS or pus culture and sensitivity, we might be able to see pus cells, lymphocytes, macrophages, etc. Again, the clinical features. Ear discharge most commonly seen is non-offensive and mucoid, or it might be mucopurulent, and it is either constant or intermittent. We have to elicit the history of any upper respiratory tract infection if present, because sometimes patient will come with complaint of ear discharge and more during the time of upper respiratory tract infection. So if any upper respiratory tract infection is present, care should be taken to treat that infection first. That treatment will ultimately lead to resolution of the middle ear infection also. Hearing loss. The hearing loss is also present. It is mostly of the conductive type and severity varies, but it rarely exceeds above 50 decibel. Sometimes the patient reports of paradoxical effect. That is, the patient hears better in the presence of discharge rather than when the ear is dry. This occurs because the presence of discharge will act as a conductive medium, and so the sound will get easily transferred from the external ear through the middle ear into the inner ear. The other thing you should keep in mind is the round window shielding effect, which is produced by the discharge and it helps to maintain the phase differential. Perforation. Now, in tubotympanic type, we see different kind of the perforation. See, this is also a perforation, it is also a perforation, this is also a perforation, and these all perforations are present in the pars tensa region of the tympanic membrane. This is a small perforation in the anterosuperior part of the membrane. This is a moderate size perforation involving the inferior quadrant. This is almost a subtotal perforation. Remember, this perforation has characteristic of it being surrounded by normal pars tensa and fibrous annulus. See, this perforation is surrounded by normal pars tensa and the fibrous annulus is intact. Similarly here, the pars tensa is present and the fibrous annulus is present. This is the perforation and the intact fibrous annulus. This is a total perforation with destruction of the fibrous annulus also, and you can see the ossicle through the perforation. This kind of perforations suggest that it is an unsafe type of the otitis media, that is atticoantral type of the disease. This is perforation in the attic region. This is a marginal perforation. All these types suggest to be a chronic suppurative otitis media but of atticoantral type or squamosal type. See, this is the endoscopic picture of left side of the tympanic membrane, giving information about perforation in the inferior half or rather posterior part of the tympanic membrane. The handle of malleus, you can see this part of the handle of malleus through the perforation. This is the short process or the lateral process of the malleus. Observe the margins. The margins are smooth, rounded and lined by squamous epithelium. This is the normal tympanic membrane surrounding the perforation, suggesting that it is a tubotympanic type of the disease. And see, this is the white fibrous glistening structure you can see. It is the annulus. The structure you can see through perforation is the promontory and the mucosa over it. See, these are the blood vessels and this is the normal mucosa of the middle ear. Here you can see the incudostapedial joint, only the part of the incudostapedial joint, not the whole of it. Let us again revise the pathological changes seen in the tubotympanic type of the disease. The most common is perforation in the pars stanza. It is mostly central and the position and the size can be variable. The other is middle ear mucosal changes, that is it may be normal if it is an inactive kind of the disease, but it can be edematous if it is active disease. Polyp and granulation might develop if there is an exaggerated inflammatory reaction. It may protrude through the perforation in the external ear and the polyp appears mostly pale in color. Sometimes there might be ossicular damage. Present. Most commonly involved ossicle is the incus. Tympanosclerosis might also be present. These are chalky white deposits of hyalinization with subsequent calcification, most commonly in the subepithelial region or the subepithelial layer of the tympanic membrane. Lastly, there might be fibrosis and adhesion and it occurs because of eustachian tube dysfunction. See, eustachian tube dysfunction, microbial contamination, middle ear inflammatory mediators, scarring and remodeling of the middle ear, altered tympanomastoid anatomy. These are all the factors which leads to the development of chronic suppurative otitis media. Now management finally. The management includes investigations and treatment. So first we'll go with the investigations. If patient has an active disease, it is rather important to start an antibiotic. But without knowing the kind of the organism, we generally start with a broad spectrum antibiotic. Along with that, we take the culture and sensitivity swab of that pus and send for the same. Once the report comes, we start the antibiotic accordingly. The second investigation we go for is the audiological examination. Once the ear gets dry or there is minimal discharge present, we do tuning fork test. The tuning fork tests are done by 256, 512 and 1024 Hz and it will be explained later on in other sessions. Uh, Here, one thing should be kept in mind that tuning fork test comes under normal investigations or normal examination. It doesn't come under audiological investigation separately. So, tuning fork test should always be done while doing normal examination of the patient. Again, we confirm our tuning fork test finding with audiogram. This audiogram will give information about the degree of the hearing loss and the type of the hearing loss. Along with the audiological examination, we will go for the radiological examination. Now, the radiological examination is generally not needed, but if it is needed, we will go for X-ray bilateral mastoid Schüller-Scheuch. And if we suspect that the infection has spread and has become an aticoenteral type of the disease or a cholesteatoma has developed, we might go for high resolution computed tomography of the temporal bone. Along with all these cultural examination, audiological examination, radiological examination, we will also go for all the relevant hematological examination. Treatment. Now, the treatment includes a symptomatic treatment and definitive treatment. The symptomatic treatment should be given if patient complains of any allergic condition or any upper respiratory tract infection. It is given in the form of decongestant nasal drops and analgesic and antipyretic if it is associated with pain and fever. And definitive treatment is always in the form of the medical treatment or surgical treatment. The medical treatment is given in the form of antibiotics and the surgical treatment is given in the form of tympanoplasty. Let us revise again. The treatment of the tubotympanic type of the disease involves either medical treatment or surgical treatment. First, we always go for the medical treatment. If the disease is active, if there is any active discharge, if there is any active polyp or granulations, we first go for the oral toilet and antibiotic ear drops, and in the local treatment, and in the systemic treatment we go for antibiotics and decongestant. Generally, we start with a broad spectrum antibiotic, and once the culture and sensitivity report is available, we start with the antibiotic which is the sensitive one. Now, once the ear becomes dry and if the perforation is small, we go for chemical cautery for the smaller perforation. That is, trichloroacetic acid application is done over the margins of the tympanic membrane. This, in a way, freshens the margin of the tympanic membrane and creates a condition for the regeneration of the tympanic membrane. Treatment. The aim of the treatment is to control the infection and eliminate the ear discharge, and at a later stage to correct the hearing loss by the surgical means. So, oral toileting is removing all the debris and discharge from the ear. It can be done either by dry mopping with absorbent cotton buds or through suction clearance via microscope. Remember, after irrigation of the ear must be dried. Ear drops can be given in the form of only antibiotic ear drops or along with any acetic acid solution. Acidic pH helps to eliminate the Pseudomonas infection, and irrigation with the 1.5% acetic acid will help reduce the pH and thus help reduce the infection. Ear drops should be given approximately 3 to 4 times per day. Systemic antibiotic is useful in acute exacerbation of the chronically infected disease. Precautions should always be kept in mind. Precautions should be taken. They are in the form of keeping water out of the ear, and remember, care should be taken while swimming and washing the hair. That is, the water should not go inside the ear. Rubber inserts can be used in the ear to prevent this. Also, sneezing and hard blowing of the nose should be prevented, or care should be taken while doing that, as the infection might spread from the nasopharynx into the middle ear. Always take care to treat the contributory causes. It can be infected tonsil, it can be adenoid, it can be nasal allergic conditions, and so on. The final surgical treatment is either tympanoplasty or myringoplasty. See, if medical treatment fails and if the perforation is permanent, the treatment is always surgical. And the surgical treatment is either tympanoplasty or myringoplasty. Along with that, sometimes we do ossicular reconstruction to restore the hearing mechanism. Now, what is tympanoplasty? It is a surgical procedure to remove the disease from the middle ear with reconstruction of the hearing mechanism with or without mastoid surgery and with or without tympanic membrane grafting. There are total 5 types of the tympanoplasty. The 6th type is the recent one. The first is only the repair of the tympanic membrane without altering the ossicular chain. See, here all the ossicles are normal. This is the new graft placed. It is placed over the handle of malleus. So this is type 1 of tympanoplasty. If there is any pathology involving the incus or malleus, that part of the ossicle is removed and the graft is placed over the remnant of the malleus or incus. That is called type 2 tympanoplasty. See, this is the newer graft placed over the malleus. This is the normal incus. This is the normal stapes. The third type of the tympanoplasty is also called myringiostepidiopexy. Here the graft is placed over the head of the stapes. The fourth type is round window protection. Here the graft is placed over the footplate of the stapes or over the oval window and on the round window. Here the sound will lead directly to the inner ear by placing the graft over the round window. And the last one is fenestration in the horizontal semicircular canal. Here a fenestra is created over the semicircular canal and the graft is placed over that fenestration. And on the ossicular part, it is placed on the remnant of the ossicle, most commonly on the capitulum of the stapes. Now let us go over the common MCQs which are asked. These are the three common MCQs which are asked. Now the main thing. Students, you have to remember how to write an answer of any disease. I am just giving an example of how to write the tubotympanic type of the chronic suppurative otitis media. First, introduce your topic, give some introduction in 2 to 3 sentences, explain that it is a chronic condition, explain that it is a condition affecting the middle ear, then give definition. You have to be very correct about the definition. The third point is etiology. Explain point-wise all the factors and the agents and the microbial agents causing it. The fourth one is the pathology. Explain the macroscopic findings and the microscopic findings. The clinical features, its signs, its symptoms, the otoscopic findings, say goes on. Finally, the management. Always divide the management into the investigation and the definitive treatment. And the definitive treatment includes the symptomatic treatment by medical modality and finally the surgical management. Thank you.